This morning on The Dish, a man credited with revolutionizing Scandinavian cuisine. Growing up in the 60s, Claus Meyer says food in his native Denmark was often frozen, canned, and tasteless. Later, working in France, he fell in love with great cooking and wanted to bring it home.
In 2003, he co-founded Copenhagen's Noma, voted best restaurant in the world 4 times. Now he's come to America with the Great Northern Food Hall and the Michelin-starred Agern, both in New York's Grand Central Terminal. Claus Meyer, we are thrilled to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Tell us what's on this table to start.
Well, starting down there, you have a beetroot tartare with horseradish cream. You have graved laks, cured laks. You have beautifully boiled fingerling potatoes. You have roasted duck packed with prunes and apples. You have a beautiful gastrique-based sauce, caramelized potatoes, braised red cabbage, and riz allemande with cherry sauce, some honey hash to begin with.
And a mulled cider, is that right?
Yeah, kind of a mulled cider, that's right.
All right, cheers to that.
Applejack.
I have to go back to this line, frozen, canned, and tasteless, was how you described food growing up.
And yeah, and packed with trans fatty acids, stale breadcrumbs. It was horrible. I mean, this was the darkest period of Danish food history, and also my mother absolutely didn't want to cook.
So what lit the fire for you?
I think it was the discrepancy between this 19 years lived in a culinary darkness in Denmark and then 1 year bathed in light in Gascony, France.
And where did you take that? Once you had that light, where did you go from there?
Well, fired up by that light, and also I come from a divorced family where my mother became an alcoholic, my father left the building. So exposed to love and amazing food in Agern, France, I got almost like a calling, and I wanted to go home to my native country to change food, basically to restore love in the families.
When you tried to change things, initially what was the reaction?
I mean, the first 20 years, I did it like an entrepreneur. I kind of more or less single-handedly tried to repair on the imperfections I stumbled across without too much of an impact. Then I decided to take a top-down approach in 2003. Yeah. And the idea was to kind of try to build a movement around this Nordic cuisine ideology. We ask ourselves the question, if in this food desert we are going to create one of the greatest food cultures in the world, what is it that we're bringing to the plate? What are we bringing to the table? What are we doing for the world? And then we decided to create a restaurant that would live out this philosophy in the most extreme way.
And
That's very ambitious.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course everybody didn't get it in the first second, but the point was not to win over every single individual in Denmark in a week, but to win over the most important stakeholders. So we managed to onboard government, research institutions, big food companies, and basically slowly build momentum, and it was difficult to be against the Nordic cuisine movement.
You talk about that movement, but it's also been about social change for you too.
Well, coming from this childhood, I always wanted to try to be somebody who would help people in need. I just didn't exactly know how to do it in a smart way, but in 2010 I founded Melting Pot Foundation, which became my vehicle for bringing crucial resources to struggling neighborhoods.
Claus, ultimately, what brought you to New York?
Well, I learned about the opportunity to open a restaurant and a food hall in the iconic Grand Central Terminal, and I couldn't get it out of my head. And also, I have 4 women around me. I mean, four girls, 3 daughters, and a wife who are deeply in love with New York City.
I don't blame them.
And it is the greatest city in the world, as we all know. So, I mean, there was no way not to do it.
Well, we're glad they're in love with New York City.
Exactly.
I'm glad you came.
That's right. As we have you sign the dish, I'll ask you if you could have a meal with anyone, past or present, who would it be?
I mean, Barack Obama would be high on my list, and so would Martin Luther King.
Fantastic.
That's a very good list.
Yeah, we like that. Chef Claus Meyer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And for more on Chef Meyer and the dish, you can head to our website at cbsthismorning.com.